the rise of the cryptocracy. And I think that Donald Trump will be seen as the president who essentially ushered that in and basically opened up the door to the death knell to the American empire, which I now call um, the empire in name only. That's what it'll end up being. The otherwise known as the last empire, but the empire in name only. Okay, so gold reserves, gold standard is taken down, and now debt can be used as the base for currency creation. You deposit money inside of a bank, debt gets created, so a liability. The money you deposit at the bank owes you, right? So it's a liability. They don't like that. They lend it out so that they can have a debt. It creates new money within the system that wasn't there before. You take out a loan. That new money that you created wasn't there before. The bank created new money. That went on for a while, up until the global financial crisis 2008, where the banks they got butt smacked real hard. And so they go, well, we don't really want to issue credit we did before. And then we have these other credit mechanisms that are happening because of central banks, because of fiscal spending and different types of institutions within the euro dollar system. So dollar creation. So like you're saying, debt is the unit, basically the source of the creation of new money being currency. So before with the what was it? If we use today's numbers for the amount of gold that exists, 15 trillion, $15 trillion worth of gold based on the dollar amount that we have now. So $3,000 announced gold, about 15 trillion, and the size of the global um, GDP is about 105 trillion. And then the size of all the assets and wealth and goods and all that sort of thing all together that can be counted is about 450 trillion. And so, yeah, difficult to base a $450 trillion market on $15 trillion of gold, especially given 1970s, 1980s, 1990s technology. Right, we didn't have the system infinite divisibility. Then you still have to store the gold and where it needs to be, and the anyways, it becomes problematic to have that. The inelasticity of the supply of gold makes it difficult for it to be a basis standard for a system, and then like there's no you can't verify it at all, and so that's how the paper gold market is like how many times 100 times bigger than the actual gold market, and we don't know what's actually there. So that has been the component. And the thing is, what's interesting is that you'll notice that even though every year we've been alive, people have been complaining about how big the debt to GDP is or the debt is in any country. Seems not to matter. And it's very hard for me to I would really believe when it went from millions to billions, and like that was really, oh my god, this is a order of magnitude different. You don't understand. Any day now, the systems collapse. Then it went from billions to trillions. You're like, excuse me. Now it's really on the brink. Wait, I thought Japan had like a 300% debt to GDP ratio like in the 1980s, and they're like one of the best countries in the world right now. Like, what's going on? So I no longer believe that. We're gonna go to quadrillion. I think we'll be fine when we get to quadrillion. So it's just the divide between the rich and the poor gets wider and wider because the mechanism for distribution of new capital, which is the whole important part, the distribution of new capital is what creates the K-shaped economy. That's split between two people. It's not inherent within the debt structure. Well, it's inherent within how the debt gets generated, right? When the debt was being generated to the little guy, right? You had stuff like home loans. No income, no job, no problem. You can get a home, right? Even the little guy who had nothing can get a home. That wasn't a problem. That was they were also enjoying the distribution of as the debt system creating opportunities for them. It's just that when they bailed it out, they didn't bail out the little people. They decided, hey, let's use this opportunity to transfer all those assets and wealth to the top. Had they not done that, they could just reset the system, and we could continue in that sort of way, in a sense. But I'm just giving you the idea that the K shape, the bifurcation, the have-nots and the have splitting wider and wider is not a function specifically of the debt system, just how the debt system is administered, right? If I give you a loan of $100,000 and you go spend that on non-productive means, drinking alcohol, going to the casino, whatever, and now you have to pay back $100,000, there's no wonder why that's worse, right? Well, you'll end up worse. But if I give you $100,000 and you go do productive means and you're able to generate $200,000 worth of productivity, then it would have been worse for both of us for me to hold on to that $100,000. I mean, we all understand that. The $100,000 that was there is stored energy that's not being put to use in the same way that if you had a car in the garage that you never drove. You have to actually use it for it to be worth something. And so when it's put into the economy, it's worthwhile. So there's no any productivity that you get based on savings is worthwhile, makes the savings worthwhile. And then any productivity you get based on debt is free productivity. That's fine, right? We want to be doing it. Alan Watts has a famous clip on YouTube. I've heard again and again. He goes, "How did the Great Depression happen? Because we didn't run out of hammers, nails, and lumber. It's just that when you got to work that day, they said we ran out of inches. Well, you didn't run out of inches. You ran out of ways of administrating the system, and so that you can do the work that everyone wanted to do. You didn't run out of people. You didn't run out of things. You didn't run out of any of it. You just stopped working because of some concept. Okay. So if we move towards a cryptocracy, where AI and crypto are the base technologies for the new system, in the same way that capital and labor were distributed through communication and transportation, now you have two new technologies that could underpin the next wave. Uh, then you have the opportunity for value to be unlocked, as we talked about before, where cryptocurrency can unlock value, and AI can then help distribute that to where it needs to be the most productive to unlock this value. And so you can imagine how debt. You can imagine if I were just to give you the thought experiment, you can assume it wouldn't be far fetched for you to assume that there's enough actual value that has not been denominated in the world today to at least cover all the debt we have.
I've heard your thesis on this. Yeah, probably unlocking untapped. Basically, you're fracking productivity. Like you're, we have all natural gas that we need.
Right, but even like, before you sat in your home, you were $5,000 in debt, and you're like, "Where am I gonna get this money?" And then, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, eBay shows up, and it turns out, "Oh, wait, there's a bunch of stuff I have that actually can sell for more money than I thought I could, and now I can wait and get my debt off." Well, you always had the means in order to pay the debt off, you just didn't have a way of monetizing it.
Right.
You just didn't know that you could monetize it and extract it. Well, there's all kinds of things we have and that we do that is also valuable and productive, we just don't have a way of monetizing it. In the same
OnlyFans.
way that the teacher standing in front of the class when he's teaching and he has a contract with the school gets paid for this productivity. But if he goes outside on the lawn and talks to people on the street, he has no way of monetizing that, even though he's just as productive as he was before.
Yeah, you're talking about OnlyFans.
Scalability is what we're talking about.
No,
Thank
I
you very
mean,
much.
you had all these people, women with assets. They didn't know how valuable it was, you know?
Right.
People giving it away for free.
That's
Suddenly,
right.
you're like, "What? Wait, hang on a second. Instead of me just sending this picture to my Tinder connection, I can post this and cha-ching."
Well, they monetize respect and chastity and decency. You're like, how much is this decency worth? This much. Okay, send it over.
That's right. I don't need it. Haven't
I
been
didn't know how
using
much it was. I didn't know it was worth this. Yeah. Just like some girls like, I don't my virginity is worth how much? Yeah, take it. I was that girl gave it to somebody for a sandwich. I'll give it to you for $100,000 a month. Fine. I'm not gonna fault them for it. Go
But I
ahead and
mean,
do
it's
that.
kinda like that,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
monetizing things that you just didn't realize was monetizable. It's things that's already productive that there's no price tag to. Like, for, mothers, there's always the argument, "Hey, mothers they're raising the next generation and they get paid not at all." And I go, "Yeah, that's ridiculous." Right?
yeah,
There should be a mechanism where as soon as you have any children, y if it costs $100,000 to put your delinquent child in jail every year for the rest of his life, he commits a crime from 30 to 65, then give the woman $100,000 a year. What are you talking about? Give her $100,000 a year, then give her $50,000 a year. What are you talking about? Of course, give it to her. Why not? Oh,
Yes.
then she's gonna have 10 kids. Then let the woman have 10 kids. What who's doing the things you don't want to be doing? What are you talking about? Let her have the 100 kids. What's the
Yeah,
problem with that? Pay
we need
her.
a professional mother class. Yeah, totally. I totally get it. It's
You'll pay a guy for knocking somebody else out who has a ball. You'll pay him millions of dollars. Pay this person money.
because we
What's
get
the
to watch.
problem?
Because we get to watch. It's entertainment.
Yeah, you get these kids are then grow up and do
Yeah,
the things that you
look,
don't
you
want to
don't
be
have to
doing.
be mad at me. I agree with you, okay? But and it's kind of like the robo taxis that Elon is talking about. He's like, your car basically sits unused for like
That's exactly
forever.
Peter. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so debt then can become a thing of the past, or it's a new level of it, but from a base of productivity that we just have not even begun to conceptualize and monetize. Um, it's sort of like you tell people back in the day when there was 2 million people on the planet, one day there's going to be 8 billion people on the planet. But like, they can't even conceive. What are you talking about? Like locusts on the planet, where are you going to be? And we're like, oh no, we can actually fit 10 times more. We have a population problem. It's not enough people. Um,
I think we sit around, you're just like sitting on the roof of your car, looking out over a point over the city at night, and you see a shooting star, and it's just a beautiful thing to you. Elon is like, there are minerals up there.
There's minerals of the grab it,
All the minerals we
bring it
need are
over.
right up there. So yeah,
Exactly.
unlocking potential. I like the idea of that. So you think crypto AI unlocks that potential, and then
Well, that's not the only reason I'm bringing up the cryptocracy. So the reason I'm bringing that up is that one of the stable coins, one of the assets in the cryptocurrency space, is like people don't necessarily because people don't actually know where money comes from or where currency comes from and how the whole system works. They don't understand that. Forget Bitcoin, forget Cardano and all that. Stable coins is where it's at.
hmm,
Like stable coins, the issuers of the stable coins could be the thing that erases all debt and unlocks productivity the likes of which we've never seen before. Because the all around the world, sovereign entities and institutions and people are scrambling to get the world reserve currency, dollars, in order to pay their dollar denominated debt and to be able to participate within the global system. And as I mentioned before, we don't care how much debt there is. We don't go, well, we shouldn't build a factory today because the United States is $30 trillion in debt. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. It has no bearing whatsoever. You don't go, I'm not going to go to the music park because, the deficit this year, the government, that doesn't bother anybody at all, anything.
what about your share of the debt?
That's right.
We
Nobody.
all owe
Yeah,
80,000.
exactly.
All right.
Right. If you say so.
I applied for a credit card today and I got it. So hasn't affected anything.
Anything at all. And the same thing for other sovereign nations. They don't then cease their economic activities because of the debt of the countries that they're dealing with. They go, I need oil, so give me oil. I need wheat, so give me wheat. Like when that stops, that's the problem, not the debt thing. Um, you'll never see China go like, we'd love to buy your pork, but you're fiscally unsound. We're just gonna have to starve until you get your act together. That's never gonna happen. All right. So stable coins are where it's at. And what I don't think, well, maybe they do know, but that the issuance of stable coins will relieve the pressure on the dollar, the need to get the dollar, right? Because if you can get stable coins, which is almost like in the same way that gold, this physical gold, and then the paper market for gold, with all the derivatives, all the assets, all the obligations that represent gold that can be traded like it is gold. You can have a paper dollar market, which is stablecoin, that represents the U.S. dollar, which means in the same way that the dollar can end up being leveraged out in a sense in this paper market, and you can get additional liquidity that you need. In fact, with different characteristics for the different stable coins that you need, so that the sovereign nations and institutions can still engage in commerce in a way that's um, just as liquid as the US dollar, because they'll be able to jump from cryptocurrency to cryptocurrency in and out of what are regular currencies that they need into and out of assets even smoother in a sense than what used to happen before. And the stable coins can even like you'll be able to transfer from one stable coin to the other. And so you can be China can be in its own ecosystem of a stable coin that they're issuing controlling the issuance of, or a group of countries, and another one can have their own, and there could be a translation that's happening between the two. But what matters is that the liquidity, the ability to transact, to engage in commerce increases.
But won't it not only be a proxy for the dollar, but also for Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin is, you have the volatility, so you're not going to want to denominate a sovereign debt in Bitcoin,
Hmm,
because if Bitcoin is going up, then you're going to have to own more later on.
right,
The whole reason why people like the dollar is that because they could print more and more and more of it, in a sense, it's supposed to be easier to get, even though that hasn't been the case, and that's why there's funding pressures for the dollar. Like there's all kinds of activities a sovereign nation might want to engage in that they can't because they can't get the dollars,
right.
right? And if they could just go to the Fed or whatever and say, "Hey, give us 10, 10 trillion." Like I don't care if that's your deficit. Give us 10 trillion so we can engage in commerce. They would want that. The debt wouldn't stop them from doing it. They'd be like, "Give it to us." Well, if they can get that from the stable coin space, then you're good to go. Then they could get that issued. And so the stable coins could actually completely undermine the dominance of the US dollar
Overnight, or does that take 200 years?
pretty quickly. Because as soon as the systems are in place, the interoperability will be there. It's not
Right.
like when the dollar became the world reserve currency and it took what, 50 years before it really spread to all parts of the world, where you can go to an ATM in Japan, use your card, and get money from your American bank account. Um, that took all kinds of negotiations and setups and infrastructure, whatever, that took a long time in order to set up. Now we're talking about a thing that's set up on those rails essentially, and on the rails of telecommunications that's already around, right? And when we were younger, in 2000, they were just setting the the cords underneath the ocean that goes to the other side of the world. Like they're literally building those cords out so you can go as fast as the infrastructure can be built. We don't have that issue right now. And the cryptocurrencies and the cryptocurrencies don't require a new system for that to happen. It's a protocol. The AI systems require compute, but then that'll scale over time. So it should happen way, 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 way faster. And the desire to alleviate the pressures of not having enough dollars is there. It's been there for decades. And so there's a desire to adopt that as early as possible. So I could totally see how that happens, like in 10 years' time, boom, all of a sudden. Yeah, of course, I get paid stablecoin from my employer. And why would I not want to have that? I have my money instantly. I don't have to wait for any clearing or anything like that. I have it right away. So the reason I bring that up is that if that undermines the world reserve currency, where it's not like day one, now it's no longer the reserve currency. It is the world reserve currency, and the American empire is an empire in name only. But everyone's transacting with these other things. Well, now sovereign nations can make other decisions about what they would do without having to worry about U.S. sanctions and the U.S. dollar and stuff like that. So that would undermine it.
That sounds bearish for USA. I mean, isn't their guns and being able to control people, isn't that what maintains the empire in name only?
Well, that's why we're seeing this transition to warfare within the information space.
Hmm,
So more and more now, I mean, it's happening in propaganda. It's happening in cultural fights. You're having that. There's still some expression of it on land, but a lot of it has to do with economics, with culture, with politics. These are how nations are fighting. I was hearing the other day, who said it? Shoot, I remember. I wish I remember their name. They said that the China would see it as a giant fail if they have to raise a weapon against the United States. They're
right.
going to lose. There's no reason to do that. Why would you fight that war? It makes no sense.
But I mean, if you
Wha-
listen to the propaganda, it's like war with China is destiny.
Well, it's already happening in the information space,
Right.
right? The whole TikTok thing, the currency space, the tariff space, that's where this stuff is happening.
AI.
Why do they need to exert their dominance physically? Unless that's the last resort or there's something you could achieve that you can do it that way. And cryptocurrency and AI helps with that, right? We're seeing this massive bump in AI capex, right? Who was it? Google, $32 billion, biggest acquisition Google has ever made. I mean, by far has ever made to an AI company. Uh,
What did they buy?
they bought Wiz, a cloud computing company.
Right, and didn't Amazon put in a ton into Anthropic?
I can't remember if they put a ton into
Yeah,
Anthropic.
I think they just bought into Anthropic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the war's happening on the AI space. Everything's going on with DeepSeek over in China. You're like, what's going on over here? Do they have the chips? And what's being
Do you know what's
created?
coming
And
out next for DeepSeek?
why are they putting it open source? Like, clearly they want to undermine the American dominance.
It's beautiful. I've never loved China more. I've
Why
never
did Russia invade Ukraine? Maybe partly to increase oil prices to put pressure on the United States economy.
I don't know
Maybe
anything
that.
about that.
Why would they allow the Americans to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline and not make any fuss about that? Maybe because they wanted to undermine relationships between Europe and the United States on a fundamental level over the next 20 years. These are all things that are happening. They learned it. Don't go up against the big guns. Go at it slowly but surely. Let them whittle out from the inside. And so the inviting of the stable coins could be the Trojan horse within the walls of the American empire. And
I know.
the birth of algorithmic decisions,
Yeah.
decision making. This is the last thing I'll say on this. We're getting to the point that the level of complexity of some of the operations that need to happen, especially as we talk about potentially leaving this planet, like doing things that require computation and knowledge and coordination beyond what you normally do. You need essentially a central nervous system, which is in the digital space, algorithmic processes that are set up at every level of society. So say goodbye to your voting individually. Let's take 3 to 18 months to vote on a thing. No, we can't be doing that when we're dealing with these large things. 5 people in the boardroom sitting down together to decide what to do for a company. No, use the AI systems in order to talk to other AI systems and decide what to do. You ever use a you're using deep search on Grok on X, and you're looking at the thinking bubble, at what it's actually thinking through, and you go, "Yeah, I would say that. I would ask that. I would say this. I would ask that. Okay, it's doing all that stuff. Great." And then it comes to a
Oh,
conclusion. You're like, "Well, I have 3 of those running at any given time, just going through that
100%.
information."
Saves
And
hours.
yeah, and I'm here like the bottleneck in the whole thing where I got to type out the stuff. We're going to solve that problem. I'm just gonna be talking and doing things, and we'll figure that all that stuff out. And obviously, we're moving in that direction. And so you're going to want corporations to be doing this. You're going to want governments to be doing this, where it's figuring out what it needs to do in order to accomplish different things. So that's going to generate the birth of algorithmic decision making, where multiple decisions are made algorithmically. It'll be far more efficient, especially in the first and second turning. Um, and then you get this rise of cryptocracy, where you have people in the back end who are filthy rich that you will never see ever. I mean, not until at least the fourth turning or four turnings from now. You're not going to see them, and they're gonna have access to all the wealth and all the knowledge and all the different things, and we're just going to be to us. It'll be like, wow, our level of living compared to now is like unbelievable. But I
Yeah,
mean,
but
the
if they're
divide will be
still in there,
unreal.
look, the elites, just so you know, and one day I hope I'm an elite. We got to get rid of these meat suits. It is the Achilles heel to this whole thing, all right? This wetware that we got, if we don't find a way to either clone, backup, or something, uh, the wealth disparity. eh, Talk about walking around with a target on your back. It's not going to be good. Or maybe they leave the planet. That's leave the planet, live in orbit or something at the very least. But I don't know. I think if the cryptocracy is what you're talking about, right? Like the
Right,
elite in these cryptos, you say we're not going to know who they are. I don't know. Today, you could take a picture out of your backyard where almost nothing is visible, upload it to AI, and because of where the sun is and the shadows, they can figure out exactly where you are on a map. It's so
right.
freaky.
That's right.
How are you gonna? How are these? If these people don't want to live in a bunker somewhere, how are they going to walk around amongst us? The people who serve them are going to know that they're elite and super rich. They're going to be found out, and the guillotines will return. Um, uh, the revolution will happen, don't you think?
No, I think that the expression of it will be The analog will match, but it'll be unlike anything that we could clearly define right now, because the order of magnitude of change and different will be the difference between monarchies and democracy compared to the cryptocracy will be so different.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
I
But what I cared about that was that, oh, Trump might have opened the doors to completely undermine the American empire.
You mean like on
Sorry,
purpose or on
no,
accident?
totally by accident. We'll see.
I could see that. I could see that. Fly by the seat of your pants. But, I think it's, honestly, so I was listening to Elon Musk at, I don't know if you listened to the Tesla quarterly
No,
thing. He was talking about how this time I heard him say it in a way that I really believe he thinks this, and partly I think this too, where he says the most entertaining and ironic outcome is the
right,
most probable outcome. That
right,
we must be in some type of simulation. I'm inferring from what he's saying, but we're living some type of simulation where we're entertaining others, some other beings, and you can't believe what's happening. I can totally see how Donald Trump might be Mr. Magooing his way into this unplanned revolution. You know what I mean? It's like the last person you think that's going to be undermining the system and bringing about revolution is the president of the United States. And the fact that they would do it absentmindedly uh, fits right into place with this season of Earth. I don't know. It seems kind of nuts.